"You're just my plan B," she admitted with a smirk, so I quietly walked away. 3 years later, I'm engaged, and she's crying in my DMs about her failed marriage to plan A. Hey, viewers! Before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I was a good guy. I still am, I think, but I was a different kind of good guy back then. Softer, more patient, more willing to overlook things. For 5 years, my world revolved around Olivia. We built a life that I thought was perfect. I had a stable job as a systems analyst, steady income, and I just paid off my student loans. I wasn't rich, but I was secure. Our apartment was a little slice of heaven, our first place together, filled with hand-me-down furniture we'd fixed up, a bookshelf packed with dog-eared novels, and a kitchen that always smelled faintly of roasted chicken and coffee. Olivia, on the other hand, was all about momentum. She had a new job as an event planner and was constantly networking, attending galas, and trying to get her name out there. I was her biggest fan. I was the one who bought her new dresses for events, proofread her proposals, and stayed up late listening to her gush about her dreams. I was her rock. But over time, the foundation started to crack. It began with little things. "Your work is so predictable, Mark," she'd say, scrolling through her phone. "All my friends' boyfriends are doing these big, exciting things, starting their own businesses, taking risks." I tried to engage to talk about my projects, but her eyes would glaze over. I'd laugh it off, thinking it was just her ambition talking. Then she met Ethan, a venture capitalist, his words, not mine, who was a client for a high-profile event. He was exactly the kind of man she'd been describing. Flashy suits, a sports car, and a whole lot of confidence. He had an ego that filled a room, and Olivia soaked it all in. She started talking about him constantly. "Ethan really gets my vision, you know. He's a partner in ambition, not just a partner in a Netflix subscription." The first few times it felt like a jab. By the 5th time, it felt like a full-on attack. But I was committed. I loved her, and I believed that once her career took off, she'd settle down and appreciate the stability I provided. I was wrong. The end came on a Tuesday evening. I was sitting on the couch, laptop open, when she walked in, dressed in a sleek black dress she hadn't told me about. She looked stunning. A knot formed in my stomach. "I need to talk to you," she said, her tone unnaturally calm. I closed my laptop. "I'm going out with Ethan tonight." I felt my blood run cold. "I know he's your client. He's more than that, Mark." She sat on the opposite end of the couch, a foot of empty space between us. "I'm leaving you. Ethan and I are more compatible. He's not afraid to take risks. I'm an ambitious woman, and you're too safe. We're on different paths." My heart hammered against my ribs, a dull, aching thud. "What are you talking about? 5 years, Olivia. We planned a life together." A cold, dismissive smirk pulled at the corner of her mouth. She barely looked at me, her eyes fixed on something over my shoulder. "Don't be naive. We all have a plan A and a plan B. You were a perfectly fine plan B, Mark. The safe option, the one who would always be there. But now I have my plan A." My body went numb, a deep, heavy shock that stole all the air from my lungs. I sat there, staring at the empty space where my life with her used to be, now just a chasm filled with her cruel, careless words. Plan B. The phrase wasn't just a breakup line. It was an explanation for 5 years of backhanded comments, dismissive attitudes, and quiet disrespect. It was a cold, clinical summary of my place in her life. For a moment, the world felt like it was spinning out of control. I felt a hot, burning rush of 100 emotions: rage, humiliation, grief. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to yell, to beg, to demand she explain herself. But something deeper, something colder took hold. Her smirk, the casual cruelty of her tone. There was nothing to beg for, there was nothing to save. The Olivia I loved never truly existed. She was a mirage, and I was just the backdrop until her real story could begin. I stood up, the movement slow and deliberate, as if I were underwater. I didn't say a word. I didn't even look at her. I simply walked into our bedroom, grabbed my car keys and my wallet from the nightstand, and kept walking. She said my name, a sharp, questioning sound, but I didn't stop. I walked out the front door, leaving everything behind. The apartment, the life, the delusion. I got in my car and just drove. I spent the night at a friend's place. the silence of his spare room a stark contrast to the deafening noise inside my head. The shock was so profound that I couldn't even cry. The next morning, I went back to the apartment while she was at work. I packed a single duffel bag with a few clothes and toiletries. I didn't bother with the books, the video games, or any of our shared things. Those were artifacts of a life that wasn't real. I took my keys off the keychain I'd bought us on vacation and left them on the kitchen counter with a note. It was simple, emotionless, and final. I wish you the best. I wasn't being kind or passive. I was cutting a wire. With that, I deleted her number, blocked her on every social media platform, and drove to a small new apartment I'd found online in a different part of the city. My escape was complete. The months that followed were a quiet, surreal blur. My new apartment was bare, the walls a blank canvas that mirrored my emotional state. The initial shock gave way to a profound sense of loss, but also slowly to a quiet clarity. I had time to myself, time to think, time to finally see. I realized that my love for Olivia had been a constant state of trying to prove my worth, to live up to her unspoken and then spoken expectations. I was a man constantly on my knees, and I was so used to the posture that I didn't realize it until I stood up. I started cooking for myself again, not the elaborate meals I used to make to impress her, but simple, nourishing things. I rediscovered my old love for hiking, spending my weekends on trails instead of attending her networking events. I started talking to my friends again, the ones I'd neglected because our life together took up all my time. The constant anxiety that had been a silent companion for years began to dissipate. The pain was still there, but it was no longer a consuming fire. It was a dull ache that, with time, became a simple scar. I wasn't just healing. I was rebuilding. I was taking the raw materials of my broken life and constructing something new, something that was entirely, finally mine. It's amazing what you can build when you're not trying to keep a crumbling foundation from collapsing. I wasn't trying to get rich or get back at Olivia or prove anything to anyone. I was just trying to build a life for myself. I focused on my work, and it paid off. I landed a big new account that had been a major company goal for years, which led to a promotion and a significant raise. With the new income, I moved out of the shoebox apartment and into a real place, a quiet, modern one-bedroom with a small balcony and a view of the park. It was a fresh start, a clean slate, and I filled it with things that brought me peace. Not things that I hoped would impress someone else. The most important part of this new life, though, was Sarah. She was a project manager at my company, someone I'd always known peripherally but had never really spoken to. We started talking more after I got the promotion. She was kind, thoughtful, and saw my stability not as boring but as a quiet strength. Our first date wasn't at some flashy restaurant. It was a simple hike and a coffee. We talked for hours about our families, our goals, and the little things that made us happy. She was the antithesis of Olivia. She didn't want a partner in ambition. She wanted a partner in life. She valued my loyalty and my grounded nature. Our relationship was effortless, built on mutual respect and genuine affection. We moved in together after a year, and on the 2-year anniversary of the day I walked out of that old apartment, I asked her to marry me. She said yes, of course. My life was finally truly my own. It was around that time that the universe, or maybe just the mutual friend Grapevine, decided to serve up a dish of poetic justice. I was catching up with my friend Kevin over drinks when he casually mentioned Olivia. I hadn't heard her name in so long that it almost felt foreign. "You won't believe what happened with her and Ethan," he said, shaking his head. "They're getting a divorce, or, well, not exactly a divorce since they were never legally married. He just left." Kevin went on to explain the details, and the full picture of her plan came into focus. Ethan wasn't a venture capitalist. He was a charming con man who had been using Olivia and her professional network to fund his lavish lifestyle and his phony business ventures. He'd put her name on a lease for an expensive office space, promised to pay the rent, and then disappeared when the company went under. She was left with the legal responsibility, a pile of debt, and a severely damaged reputation. The very ambition she'd chosen him for, the very thing she used to justify leaving me, was what he ultimately destroyed. Her career as an event planner was in shambles because no one wanted to hire her after the scandal. She was, as Kevin put it, broke, alone, and humiliated. I listened to all of it without any emotion. There was no joy, no sadness, no feeling of revenge. I just felt a detached sense of finality, like hearing a news report about a stranger. My only thought was a quiet one. She chose him because she saw him as her equal, and he used her because she saw herself as his. A few weeks later, the first message came in. It wasn't from a familiar number. It was from a series of new, unknown numbers, all with the same vague text. "Hey, it's Olivia. How have you been?" I didn't respond. I just blocked the number and kept living my life. It was a ghost from a past I no longer recognized. The emails came next, from an address I didn't recognize, vague, short, and desperate. "Mark, I know you must hate me, but I really need to talk to you." I deleted them without reading past the first line. Then came the calls from blocked numbers. I let them go to voicemail, listening to them later out of some grim, morbid curiosity. They started with her begging, then escalated to tears. "Mark, please, I just need to talk to you. I made a huge mistake." I didn't return a single one. When I wouldn't budge, she sent in the flying monkeys. First, it was her mom, who I'd always liked. "Mark, honey, Olivia is in a bad way. She says she's lost everything. Can't you just talk to her? She needs a friend." My response was calm, polite, and firm. "I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm not the person she should be talking to. I've moved on." Then came a few of our old mutual friends, each with the same canned line. "Mark, she's really going through it. You're a good man. Can't you just help her out?" To each of them I gave the same detached response. "My life is with Sarah now, and I'm focused on that. I wish Olivia the best, but I won't be getting involved." The silence from me infuriated her more than any angry text ever could have. She finally showed her true colors. The voicemails became accusatory, tinged with a bitterness that felt deeply familiar. "I can't believe you're doing this to me. After everything we had, you're just going to abandon me." The final message from her was pure vitriol. "You're a coward, Mark. You were never man enough to fight for me, and now you won't even talk to me when I need you. You're pathetic." I deleted it all. The chapter was closed. At least I thought it was. My new apartment felt warm and alive. We had just finished setting up the final touches for our engagement party. Sarah looked beautiful in a simple blue dress, and the room was filled with our friends and family. People who truly cared about us. I was talking to my future father-in-law when the doorbell rang. One of our friends went to get it, and a hushed silence fell over the room as Olivia walked in. She was a ghost of the woman I'd known. Her hair was messy, her clothes looked worn, and her eyes were tired and hollow. The smug, confident veneer was gone, replaced with a desperate, wounded look. She scanned the room, her gaze finding mine, and she started walking toward me, a strange mix of determination and shame in her eyes. I didn't move. Sarah, sensing something was wrong, came to my side and slipped her hand into mine. "Mark," Olivia said, her voice a low, shaky whisper, "I need to talk to you alone." I kept my hand firmly in Sarah's. "There's nothing for us to talk about, Olivia, and this is my home. You're not invited." She flinched. "Please, Mark, I was so wrong. Ethan was a nightmare. I know you hate me, but I made a huge mistake. I never should have left you. Please, can we just talk? I know we can fix this." The irony of her words was almost funny. She saw my quiet happiness and thought it was something she could just claim again, something she could fix. I looked at her and then at Sarah and felt a rush of profound clarity. This wasn't about revenge. This was about protecting the beautiful, peaceful life I had built. "I'm not the man you left," I said, my voice calm and firm, devoid of any emotion she could cling to. "And you're right, you were wrong. You taught me a very important lesson that day. You said you should never settle for a plan B." I took a breath, letting her words hang in the air between us. "I finally found my plan A, and I'm not giving her up for anything, so no, we can't fix this." Her face crumpled as the truth hit her. She was irrelevant. I wasn't angry, I wasn't sad, I just didn't care. "I need you to leave, Olivia," I said softly, turning my attention back to my fiancé. "This is my home, and this is my family now. My life is here, and you have no place in it." She stood there for a moment longer, a defeated look on her face before finally turning and walking back out the door, the life she lost fading behind her. I squeezed Sarah's hand, gave her a reassuring smile, and returned to my conversation, my peace unbroken. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.